All right, I got my good friend JJ Pack, Mr. NASCAR himself. We're here to talk about NASCAR. We had quite an ordeal on TikTok about NASCAR, and I brought the man, the myth, the legend, who knows a lot about cars, building cars, racing cars, and we're just going to talk about it, man. JJ, I don't know if you saw, but man, I brought up some things about what to do about NASCAR, and a lot of people have opinions, man. But I want to get your thoughts, man. You've been in the sport for God, I mean, since you were 16 years old.
Yeah,
Um,
it's been a good 30 something years.
yeah, man. So NASCAR back in the day was exciting, thrilling. I mean, just hard racing, and it's just gone downhill, man. But let's kind of talk about what you see the differences back when you raced, and with all the guys that you followed, and what you see now, man. I mean, talk about the changes, good, better, and different, man.
Yeah, it's ironic. I do get asked a lot about what I feel about how NASCAR's direction's going as far as how things are with the new car, if I like the new car, those type of questions. And I tell a lot of people when they first ask me how long I've been racing, and I've been racing since I had steel bumpers on the car. So it's been that long. Ever changing. I've raced at just about any kind of track you can think of, even the big ones, Daytona, Pocono. So a lot of experience around the cars and things. And one of my I don't like the new car, and the only reason why I don't like the new car, again, it's a GT car, like a an IMSA car or a GTM, some of that nature. It's just it's that style car, and they're trying to race it on oval tracks, so it's a little odd to watch. I mean, the only thing it's missing is a wing.
Yeah.
So, but I also grew up in the older age where I liked 5-on-5 lugs and just older style cars and steel bodies. I mean, racing really, a stock car is not really a stock car. I mean, they never really have been.
Well, talk about like the entry into into car racing, man. I mean, or racing in general, because now, I mean, to be able to race in NASCAR, I mean, they're buying their rides.
Yeah, so the ladder's broke. I mean,
Okay, so let's
the ladder's broke.
Okay, so talk about it. Just get right into that.
I have a strong feeling. And honestly, this also puts me in the spot too. I feel like the ranking level, you should be able to work the ladder. The ladder should be there, and you should have so many wins, so many championships before you can move into the next stage, which would move you up the ladder. I myself.
So you're talking about like starting in maybe ARCA or karts, going to ARCA, and then go to Xfinity, and then NASCAR.
I think you need to be starting. Go-kart's optional, I guess you could say, but I think you should be racing at a weekly racing series level before you could even step forward into ARCA and those type of things.
Okay, so talk about like what are those levels?
So, I mean, NASCAR has their own late model series.
Okay.
So you could run some, late models, super
Wayland,
late models.
right? Yep.
Modifies is another good way.
Yeah.
And even on the dirt tracks, if you're running modifies or anything of that nature, it still should qualify you to run, whether it's ARCA or trucks. But that would be the stepping stone. I've seen too many times where some people don't even do that. They can go straight out of a late model straight to a Xfinity car.
Okay, so you race some ARCA races, man, and you see some of these newer, I'm calling them kids. I mean, they are, but like, what's your thoughts about these kids getting rides, paying for rides, and then just jumping into a track like Daytona right off the bat, man? I mean,
so ARCA has a very odd way of how they allow guys to race. They go through an approval process, which I call it the Richard Petty driving school, because it's pretty much the test at Daytona, and it's just why we ignored it all the time. We never went, and it was because at the test at Daytona was more or less just a Richard Petty experience, just so they can be approved by NASCAR or even ARCA before it was NASCAR. So I don't personally like it, only from the aspect of it does allow too much riffraff to get in if you want us to call it that, or you can call guys with money. Some do have experience, and it is a good time for them to test. They probably should separate how they do that, but I do think it's a little too easy to be able to get in, which also tends to make your talent level not as strong.
I agree. So let's talk about NASCAR, the series. Where did it go wrong, man? Like, where did you see the start of it just starting to go down?
I think it all starts with money. I think money makes everything go wrong. When you build yourself up too high, and then you try to overachieve at each level. They try to do too much. and then they try to cost the team too much. I mean, when you franchise teams, that's another problem.
The charter system, right?
That whole ordeal is just not a good idea. But
yeah,
because now you're making it to where if somebody did own their own cup team, a small team, I mean, look at Andretti. He can't. F1 just turned him down for even trying to attempt to start a team in F1. Same reason. They just don't have. They don't like it. But that's not really the question you're asking. You're asking, where did it go wrong?
Where did it go wrong? I mean, was it at the beginning when they started announcing the next gen car?
It's gimmicks. So the gimmicks in racing, stage racing, it's gimmick.
It's a gimmick. Can't stand stage racing.
Why in the world do we have a competition caution every race? I understand maybe it's a tire check, but it used to be about endurance. That was the whole point of racing, was endurance. Can the driver endure that type of length of race? 200, 300, 500 laps? I mean, it was endurance.
I mean, you're setting up your cars for sprints now rather than long endurance racing.
Well, yeah. I mean, might as well start with a 10-minute break and everybody have a sandwich and talk about the last 30 laps.
Yeah.
I don't think I can see where the fight is at some tracks where people are like, it's boring to watch 300 to 500 laps. It is. It does get that way, but it also makes people try harder, where right now it's a little easier. You don't have to have a lot of the what am I looking for here? I'm gonna draw a blank here.
That's all right.
The strategic part of it. They don't have a lot of strategy built into it right now, where the strategy's still there, but it's nowhere near like it used to be. Like if we were going to take 2 tires or 4 tires, now it's everybody's just taking 4 tires of fuel every time.
Well,
because they know they can do it.
I mean, like why did they get away from the 5 lug nut deal and taking the pit crew out of it, man?
So that has to do with the advancement thing. They built a new car. They wanted all new, just to keep with the newness of it all. They wanted to update a lot like a street car, so it'd be more like your everyday Camaro, which, let's be honest, that's a great idea, but even your everyday Camaro has a 5 lug.
Right.
So I think you have a little bit of mixture between who owns NASCAR, like who's buying into it,
right?
Who's part of the rule package. They're making a little too advanced, I think, that's where GT racing and IMSA comes in. Those guys are what. All right, you got prototype cars. That's what that is. That's where that stuff belongs.
I get you, man. Like the carbon bodies and all this other crap. They're just making it almost daggone near impossible for any team to come in and start, a team, because it's so daggone expensive, man. Well, yeah, the cost of a car is ridiculous.
Yeah, the Cup Series is not designed for that anymore. It's just not.
Yeah,
Xfinity is and Truck Series is about the only two. You could bring one in, but you're still going to get handed it. It's just not. You're going to have a hard time. It's just not the same.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot, man. What's this? What are your thoughts about NASCAR going woke? We're here to talk about it, man.
I believe personally, I do think it's changed in a different way. I do think there's a little bit of catering to certain aspects of it. There's a lot of the diversity. I don't mind. I go back to, if you earn your ride, you earn your ride.
I agree. Right? It's merit, right?
Right.
No matter who you are, if your merit is the way it's supposed to be, and you're talented and a quality driver, pit crew, whatever, so be it. Who cares?
Right. But I will tell you, don't let it fool anybody out there too, that these guys are buying these rides. There is somebody purchasing these seats for them. They are not being tapped and saying, hey, I need you to drive for me. It just doesn't happen that way anymore.
Okay. So my thought is this, man. You've got corporate NASCAR that has to have corporate sponsors. These corporations are under the same kind of marching orders of the hedge funds and the investors in New York City, and the BlackRocks, the Vanguards of the world. And they've given these corporations a marching order. You need to have DEI in your corporations, or we're not going to invest in you. And NASCAR kind of follows underneath that. And they're threatened to the fact that if you don't follow these guidelines, you're not going to get any money. And we've seen it time and time again. These corporations started out with this crap, forcing, instead of merit, they rather hire based on race, color, gender, and all this other crap. Mm-hmm. And then it's blown up in their face. Corporations are pulling back from that. But it seems like an article just came out 3 or 4 days ago that NASCAR is pushing this even further into the DEI stuff. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, what are they trying to achieve? Why did NASCAR get away from its fan base? Like, what was it? What do you think they're? I mean, what do they think they're
I mean,
thinking?
I think that's two different questions, though. I mean, I think your original one was the diversity part. The sad thing is there's a lot of guys I do know that have the talent ability, but Bubba sits in a car. You know what I mean? I know
Yeah.
guys that are way better than him that
Yeah.
do have, that culture and
Sure.
across the board.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's there because he had a large backing
Yeah.
financially.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but hey, I mean, that's the way the world has become now. So, I mean,
But let me ask you this. I mean, I'm going to go back to my last question. Why did NASCAR consciously choose to get away from its grassroots?
I think they're just trying to keep up with times. Unfortunately, I think times don't even know where they want to be. I mean, half the people don't know what they want anymore. One time they want this, and then it doesn't work out, then they move on. I think they're trying to chase a fan base that the fan base isn't really loyal to anything. I think they're just here for the moment. It's fun, and then move on to the next thing. And it's hard to chase that financially, really.
Yeah.
So it's hard for anything to chase that.
Right.
I mean, you don't see F1 chasing some of that stuff. You see them chasing the hybrid cars, the electric cars. I get what they're doing there, but they're only trying to mix it. But
Right.
their races are the same length. They're still the same. That's why they're so popular right now.
What's your thoughts about them introducing the prototype for the electric car at the Coliseum?
I don't know what to think of that.
I mean, can you imagine having a wreck and then a lithium battery blows up and it takes 4 hours for them to put out a fire?
Yeah, could you imagine a golf cart out running?
I mean, that's what they're doing.
Electric too, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a late model with an electric motor in it, so that'd be interesting.
If you were the president of NASCAR, okay, you had a complete control. What would you do to get back to get your fans back?
Well, I think so. Out the gate, as far as the car wise, I would raise the cars back up to where they have ride height, right? To where they actually float, move, make it a little harder on the teams to get these cars to actually handle, because they're a little too easy to handle the way they're set now.
So explain that a little bit for those who don't know what you're talking about.
So right now, I mean, they have them bound down on bump stops, bump springs. I mean, they got these
coil
cars.
binding.
Yeah, they're just laying these cars down on bump springs is what they're doing.
Okay.
Late models are doing it too. It makes it easier for the teams to keep the cars
downforce.
Well, that, and it keeps the handling easier. It's much easier to throw a shim pack in something and keep it turning a lot easier than it is back in the day where they were running rounds in the cars and the cars were handling ill handling. They're running out of fuel, hot tires. I mean, it's just now they've made them too good. So you need to kind of make them a little bit more dangerous, I guess you could say. Make them a little bit harder to drive.
Okay. So
now safety, you don't need to
compromise on safety.
Don't compromise safety,
right?
But just get the cars back up. Because if you ever watch the Australian V8 supercars, they're the same car, but those cars are bobbing up and down and weaving, and those are fantastic to watch.
So one of the, I guess, comments I had was that the carbon bodies make the car safer. Is that true?
I don't know about that. They make them lighter. That's all they're doing it for.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've driven both. So I think an impact from a steel body is it crumples the same. I think the composite body is there strictly for lightweight. That's all it's there for.
But I mean, you still have to meet a minimum weight, as a car as a whole.
So all they do is stuff lead in the lower part of the car,
right?
Or tungsten. I mean, all you're doing is moving it away somewhere else.
Yeah, you're taking it from one and put it to another.
But
right?
What kills me too is one of the things is I give the horsepower back to the cars. That's the biggest thing. Why are they running less horsepower than the series below?
Well, what about the old times? I mean, this is really going back when they had carburetors. I mean, are you cool with the fuel injection?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
that don't bother me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, horsepower back then, man, they were running like 800.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And what now they're like 600 or something.
Well, yeah, they're tuned down now. That's the problem. So, like even ARCA did the same thing. We were running around 745, something of that nature, with the Ilmore, and now they've tuned them back to their 650. So it's only tuned them back because they find it to be longevity. I don't know. I really don't know. I think they're just worried about the speeds being too high or some of that nature, making them too dangerous. But
it's racing.
I get that. That's just it.
But
right?
the track itself is a prohibitor of the speed, right?
We went from a time in NASCAR where NASCAR was a series of teams trying to figure out new ways to make new things to go faster, right? So the guys would try to build horsepower in their shops. the Petties, and that they would actually do all their stuff in house. They'd build their cars. They would do everything, little tricks they could do. But NASCAR has now made it so that's impossible. There will never be another Dale Earnhardt for that reason, because you cannot take what happened back in the day where one could make an advantage to what we have now, because what we have now is basically everybody has the same equipment.
Well, okay, so then I guess what they're trying to do is, I mean, they're trying to make everybody equal, okay, but
Sure,
but the cars are equal and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, how does that make racing better? Because like the talent of the driver is not allowed to come out like you're talking about, because the teams and the setups and everything are different. How drivers drive different setup cars. Now you're going to have everything the same. It doesn't allow the talent of the driver to come out, because I mean, everybody's racing the same freaking car.
Right. And that's kind of why I would say I'd make a couple things. I'd open the rule book a little bit to them. Engine would be one. I'd let them guys tune their engines up a little bit more. Make the cars they'll handle a little bit more. But don't make them handle so well. And that way the guys can wrestle them around a little bit.
Yeah.
Then your talent level comes out.
Right.
You got to figure this stuff out.
That's right. On the fly.
Right.
And the car changes through the race.
Team's got to adjust it. I mean, it'll change a lot if they were to do that. That would help, I think, the racing be a little bit more interesting at every race. Because some races are more competitive than others. Some aren't.
Right.
Rockingham coming back.
That's going to be cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Northampton or
Wilkesboro. Yeah, Wilkesboro. Yeah.
Can't even say the word.
Yeah.
North Wilkesboro is back. I think it's going to help, but I don't think the Coliseum's going to help. If I really wanted to watch race cars drive in a parking lot, I'd go pull mine out in a parking lot. I mean,
that's what I'm trying to talk about.
That's less than a legend track,
I mean, look, I understand what NASCAR's trying to do. They're trying to get to the #1 TV audience in America and bring them out to LA and let them see it. But I mean, the Coliseum, for God's sake. I mean, they ran track there for the Olympics.
Well, do you think they're trying to bring the East Coast to the West Coast? Is that what you're trying to think? I mean, because to me, what I see them doing by doing that is they're trying to get more audience to join them that is on the West Coast, because the West Coast is ignored.
But here's the deal. Like I talk about the grassroots, your fan base, geographically speaking, is majority of it's in the Southeast. You've lost them. And you're trying to trade in your grassroots. We call them rednecks. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, they're fun group fan base, very passionate fan base, but they were loyal. They were at every race. I mean, I got people commenting that they would go to 11, 12 races a year in the Southeast, and they'd follow the series around, but they've traded those people in who supported them for all those years for Charlie on the West Coast in LA. I mean, is that really it doesn't make any sense, because that's not your demographic.
No, it's not. But I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to cross the tie so everybody can get a piece of it. But you're looking at a totally different time too. I mean, with social media now, with all these things out there to air these races, it's just different. It's just different across the board. But I still think you could fix some of it by making the racing back to somewhat authentic, and you could keep some of the older fans, regardless if it's in California, regardless if it was in Illinois. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If you kept the races the way they used to be a little bit, make the cars a little harder to drive, I think you would fix a lot of the problem.
Okay, so your fixes are basically make the cars a little bit higher, a little bit harder to drive, let the talents of the driver come out, and then
you kind of give the teams a chance to go back to doing their own R&D,
right,
and stop having to go in a room where
somebody tells you what to do.
Well, it's a fully digital scan of the car now. So, I mean, they can't even, one thing's out of place. It's, I mean, it'd be nice if the teams can go back in and go, I could flare this out, move this, and get a little advantage. I mean, be nice.
Yeah.
Give it back to the teams a little bit.
Well, my suggestion was this, and I got some heat for it, but I say let the engineers work. Let them, literally open the book up. I mean, anything goes. Only two things that you have to limit. Number one was horsepower. Number two, safety requirements. After that, let the books open, man.
Yeah.
Like, let them compete.
Yeah. I mean, that's what some of these lower series are doing. I mean, the two series I run in, they both do the same thing. You could run bump stops if you want, or you don't have to. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to just cool bind versus running bump stops. But it's the kind of only thing they have is a weight rule, right side weight rule, and then the carburetor. That's it.
Gotcha.
Do what you want.
Wow. See, I mean, and again, that's exciting, fun racing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of fans are, they love racing, but they're starting to go back to the short tracks, and they're starting to go back to,
well, the Cars Tour is going to take off more than anything right now.
Okay. So talk about that, the Cars Tour.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Cars Tour, the beauty is you take all your local late model racers back in the day, just in general racing their local tracks. Well, now they made a touring series, which used to be the Hooters Pro Cup series.
Right.
But then the Cars Tour just came out to be what it is now, and it is a full field this year. Like, they have a ton of drivers in it, which is awesome.
Yeah,
because Junior bought into it. I guess Labonte bought into it, and
right.
then Harvick bought into it. So you got the right group buying. Of course, NASCAR's wanting it now, but
yeah, of course they do, and they will ruin that too.
But it's still designed to race like it used to be. You know what I mean?
So one of the things that I heard, it was kind of in the rumblings in the background, was, NASCAR lost Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick. I mean, these are stars, right? But Carl Edwards and all these other guys that, really were successful in the series. But I heard, obviously there's some fighting and going on, about, treating their stars correctly and all this stuff. But what do you think? I heard some rumblings that these group of guys could be considering trying to get their own series together and compete against NASCAR.
Well, it's a pretty tough. That's kind of what I mean. Unless they got Live Tour money.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Which is not out of the question.
No, I know. It's going to be a tough one. But I think if you can put a good product out there, I mean, they already tried to do that with the other series they did with the what was it called again? When they all had the identical cars that Ray Evernham.
IROC?
Yeah, no. Well, Ray Evernham's actually doing the IROC series over again, but
that's
awesome.
That
other series they were running. It slipped my mind.
That's all right, man. But IROC was fun to watch, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about redoing that and bringing that back out, which is kind of cool. But on the other deal, again, do I think they can make a series to compete with NASCAR? I think they should focus, if they do this, to make a series that's different than NASCAR, and give it an option that this is what racing should look like.
Yeah.
And then let the fans decide, hey, well, because NASCAR is a name, right?
Right.
Nothing worse than when somebody says that's a NASCAR, car. It's not a NASCAR. It's a NASCAR's race car.
Right.
Not a NASCAR car. They don't own it.
Right. Yeah.
They just own the rights of how it was designed and built.
Right.
But
okay, give me one last thing that NASCAR needs to do to get their fans back.
The last thing. Make ticket sales cheaper. That cheaper to watch.
That has been one of the biggest comments I've heard.
Yeah,
they've priced themselves out of the fan.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, make it cheaper to go. I mean, like I said,
you know what they did? Here's what they did. Look at Daytona, and I think Charlotte did the same thing. They're taking seats out of the track.
Well, that's to make it look good,
right? But these were back in way back when Daytona. I sat on turn 2 on the backstretch. I love that.
The tiny Lund thing.
Yeah.
I know. So
it was fantastic. But the whole track was filled. But the tickets were cheap. The place was filled, and now they're trying to take seats out and make the seats available more expensive. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, no, I mean, it's just isolating your fan base from being, you're more of an average Joe.
You're corporate America. I mean,
right.
You're trying to, it's all like suites, boxes, and bringing the corporate America people in, but it's not working.
Yeah.
Like you turn on a NASCAR race and literally no one's there.
Yeah.
No one's there. They have to color the seats like humans, to make it look like there's fans in the stands.
Yeah.
It reminds me like the WWE during COVID. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, and I'm like anybody else. I don't want to see it fail at all.
No.
I mean, I've been in racing of that style for so long. I just don't want to see it fail, but I don't like where it's at.
Right.
I mean, I personally will watch Xfinity and trucks all day. I just don't The Cup Series just doesn't appeal to me right now.
And that's sad, right? Because that's the elite, supposed to be the elite series.
Growing up, that's all I ever wanted to do was racing the Cup Series. I mean, when I started racing in the 90s to where I'm at now, and, I've always wanted to race in the Cup Series until probably the last 10 years I've lost interest in that.
Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I mean,
all right. Lastly, we'll end it here, man. Give me your top 5 drivers of all time that in our lifetime, in our lifetime, starting at number 5.
So going that direction.
Yeah.
Oh man. In our whole lifetime.
In our lifetime. I'm not talking about like Cale Yarborough or even Richard Petty, because they weren't, they were retiring when we really got.
I know, but he was racing though.
Yeah, but he wasn't at his peak.
I guess I get what you're saying. I mean, I've always been a fan of Mark Martin, so I'm going to say Mark Martin's one of them.
Okay, so where'd you put him in the top 5?
I would put him pretty high. But that's just because I liked him. Growing up.
I mean, I have no problem with that.
Dale Earnhardt was a good driver back then as well.
I think he's more than better driver.
No, I know. I put him in a pretty high. So if I was going to go start at 5, I would give it. Jeez, this is tough. Say Tony Stewart.
Okay, I like it. Smoke.
That's
all right.
To say 5. 4, I'm gonna have to give it to Jeff Gordon.
Oh wow, that's low. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Again, this is from likes too.
I get it. Yeah.
Even though I've met Jeff. Still. Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
3rd. Yeah.
Okay. And then Mark Martin too.
Mark Martin, and then Earnhardt would be.
So Jimmy Johnson doesn't make the list.
7-time
NASCAR champion.
I understand his champion, but if you also notice when he stepped into a new car, he was complete ass. I'm looking at it when I look at this from more of diversity of what they could get into. I mean, some guys were driving really bad race cars to really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when the times changed, Jimmy struggled.
Wow.
Tony struggled, but
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a tough one, but
I got you, man. All right. Give everybody your plans. What's happening with you this year, man?
I'm racing in 4 different series this year.
Okay. Tell us.
I'm going to run a little bit late models. I'm probably going to run Cars Tour a few races, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
I'm going to run in GT2 and Trans Am TA2.
Right on.
For a couple races. We have an endurance car. I'm going to run a couple endurance car races.
Nice.
24-hour races.
Wow.
Yep. And then what's the last one? I got too many cars. Oh, they call it the Grand National Super Series. It's kind of like the Hooters Pro Cup Series used to be. Same thing, but we're running a lot of good tracks this year. So
okay.
I'll be racing that series too.
Man, you got a busy. How can anybody get a hold of you, man? Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. You can go on JJ Pack Instagram, and same with Facebook.
Nice, man. Nice.
And TikTok. I think I'm JJ doing work or something like that on TikTok.
Hey, follow him on TikTok. It's JJ Pack on TikTok.
JJ's doing work or something.
Yeah. Anyway, he's going to start doing some live feeds about building cars. He's going to show you how he's building race cars.
I need to start doing a little bit more because it is at JJ Pack.
Yeah, at JJ.Pack.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dash Pack, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, he's going to do some lives about in his garage building actual race cars.
Yeah, I want to. Once I get enough followers, I'm definitely going live daily.
Follow him.
It's going to be a daily live.
That's awesome, man. Well, good stuff. JJ, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, man.